Continuing our look at how the Russo-Ukrainian conflict is impacting the Asia region, Japan joined other nations in sanctions against Moscow and has also banned exports of oil refinery equipment to Russia. There are historical tensions between the two countries, with their dispute over who owns the Kuril Islands just off the coast of Hokkaido. It's one of the world's longest-running territorial disagreements. It's the main reason the countries failed to sign a peace treaty at the end of World War II.
Known as the Southern Kurils in Russia and the Northern Territories in Japan, the archipelago is surrounded by rich fishing grounds and is thought to have offshore reserves of oil and gas. Russia says it's planning a special economic zone on the islands, and it's beefing up its military presence. In December, Russia deployed coastal defence missile systems near the islands as a show of force on Machua, a deserted volcanic island in the middle of the chain. Sovereignty over the Kurils has been disputed for centuries. The islands were occupied by Soviet forces at the end of World War II. Japan disputes Moscow's claim of sovereignty over the 4 southern Kuril islands closest to the main Japanese island of Hokkaido. Last month, the discovery of a US submarine near the Kuril Islands during Russian military exercises added to the hostile atmosphere between Russia and the West. During part of the drills, we have detected near the Kuril Islands a submarine, most likely from the United States, in the Far East Urup Island area. After 3 hours of actions, we have removed it from our territory. This week, Japan's Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi described the 4 islands as an integral part of Japan. The saber rattling over the Kuril archipelago goes on.
We have Jeff Kingston, Director of Asian Studies at Temple University, Japan. Jeff, we just had a quick look at Japan and Russia's territorial gripe, but tell us what the other motivations are for Japan taking a strong position on the Ukraine crisis.
Well, I think that Tokyo shares the global outrage at Putin's invasion of Ukraine and the assault on a rules-based international order. So I think it wants to demonstrate solidarity with the G7, strengthen the alliance with the U.S., and, show that it's ready for prime time. The problem is that Japan's track record on sanctions is not that strong. Recall about a year ago, it promised strong sanctions on the military junta that staged a coup d'etat in Burma, and nothing much materialized. And back in 2014, it sort of watered down the sanctions against Crimea, probably because it was hoping to improve the context for negotiating those return of those disputed northern territories. So a lot remains to be seen what Tokyo will actually do.
I'm curious, how is Japan likely going to be impacted by this faraway conflict? For example, are you seeing the same spikes in energy prices we're seeing everywhere else?
Sure. Well, the Japanese government is trying to offset that by rolling out subsidies for prices at the pump to try to rein that in. But yes, we're all facing higher energy prices. I think, the big impacts are twofold. One is Japan is very worried about the implications for Taiwan, whether China might see what's perceived to be the weak and irresolute Western response as a chance for it to realize its plan for taking over the island. The other big issue is the Sakhalin LNG projects to the north of Japan. And, Shell and Exxon have indicated that they're going to pull out. But Japanese companies, which hold nearly a quarter share in both of those projects, are very unlikely to pull out. their view here is that if they divest, that's just going to help China. So they're going to hold on to those investments. And I don't think Japan is going to be really strong on sanctions on Russian energy. Russia only accounts for about 4% of Japan's oil imports and about 9% of LNG. But because of Japan's vulnerability, I think that it's going to be a bit wishy-washy.
Now, we're looking at a world that is dividing between democracies and autocracies, and I want you to talk to us about that. Let me share with you Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's words to the next South Korean president.
Especially now, as the international community faces a new era of major changes, a healthy Japan-South Korea relationship is indispensable in order to realize the international order under rules and for peace, stability, and prosperity in the world and for the region.
Jeff, with this new South Korean leader, are we going to see more cooperation and alignment on security issues between the two countries?
Well, it's going to be very difficult. Seoul and Tokyo never run out of issues to fight over. These frenemies have been battling each other for quite some time. So I'm hopeful, but also skeptical that it's all going to work out as planned.
Jeff Kingston, thank you so much for joining us.